Good evening, Isaac. How are you?
Good, Ryan. How are you? Cameras
Good. We are
all
working through our
working now.
technical difficulties. Yep, I think we're good now. Okay, great. Hey, let's introduce our guest. Why don't we?
Why don't
So,
you?
our guest tonight is Matt Riddle of the wonderful Motor City Gameworks. How are you, Matt?
Excellent. How y'all doing tonight?
Good.
Doing well, doing well. We're excited to have you on here. We're going to be talking about kind of an interesting topic: games that are named after places, real
hmm
world places. So we're going to be talking about some of our favorites, some of the places that we've been physically,
hmm
and stuff like that. So let's hop into it. I actually didn't have a opening question for you, Matt, because Isaac just created it. So we're going to get that opening question on the fly.
No worries.
As the three of us are all, assume, right? You're here in the U.S. Where you located?
Detroit.
I see the Tiger shirt. There we go. You see my helmet behind my left shoulder back here. I'm a big Detroit sports fan.
Oh, you grew up here?
I'm in Toledo, so
Oh,
Northwest Ohio.
excellent.
I'm like,
Yep.
it takes me 2 minutes to get to Michigan. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yes.
No,
So,
I've been down there a few times. I went down there for some dance stuff and also some Mud Hens games.
oh yeah,
So,
we got our hens. So, question was Memorial Day. What did
yeah.
your today being Memorial Day? What did your Memorial Day look like? What were the activities? What kept
Yeah.
you busy? What'd you end up doing today?
Yeah. Pretty quiet, actually. So, in past years, my now oldest daughter, who is just finished her freshman year of college, used to be in the marching band. So there was a big parade. We'd go to the parade.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
be honest, without her being in the parade, we were not as motivated
There you go.
to
Yeah.
go to the parade. So we did kind of just to hang out. We had yesterday. We took a little drive up. For those of you that the old map of Michigan, I'll reverse it for folks at home. We're kind of in here. We went up here into the Thumb to do a little just to get a dinner at a restaurant that's kind of on the water. It was kind of like 90-minute drive for us. It's not too bad, to feel like you're up north and be on Lake Huron. So that was yesterday to kind of just myself, my wife,
Nice.
and our two daughters. But then today, nothing really. Honestly, like we did some normal housework, just some cleaning and preparing for the week. It's kind of my wife's a teacher, so this time is really crazy. She kind of finishes the year strong, and there's always a lot going on. My youngest daughter's graduating, so we've got her open house and all that stuff. So,
yeah,
lots of moving parts. So really, it was kind of a work day, if I'm being honest. But that's all right. It was nice to have a. It's always nice to have Monday off because then
Yeah.
Tuesday feels like Monday at work, and then the week all of a sudden is over, and you
for
know,
sure.
That's right.
Ryan,
We
yourself?
you all are still dealing with school stuff. School ended for our kids last week, and so
Mhm.
we're full on into summer mode. So today
Got it.
was a little bit of just hanging out around the house. We got to actually go away this weekend. A friend invited us to a cabin, and we played board games all weekend at the cabin, which was really fun.
That is awesome.
But today was just low key and chill out. And Aaron and I drank some coffee and played a new game this morning. And my brother was like, "Hey, the pool opened in our neighborhood. You want to come over?" I was like,
Sure.
"Yes, absolutely." So our community pool closed years ago, and we definitely miss it, and the kids miss it. So, but yeah,
It's awesome. Yeah, I have. I have older kids. Kind of we all circle around that. My daughter's in college. My son is going to be a senior next year. His last day was last Friday, and so we always did the Memorial Day parade. It's a tiny little parade. We live here in Sylvania, it's kind of suburb of Toledo, and um, like it's a 15-minute parade. Like it's the two big high schools, all the military, and that's it. But this is the first year we didn't do anything, and our good friends we usually hang out with, kind of a lot of them had other things going on this week. So my son and I went up and hit a early tea time. Went out and played 18 this morning, and then came back, kind of chilled out. Started reading some content on a game I'm super excited to talk about for what I'm playing now,
nice.
and then I got similar to yourself, Ryan. I got an early Father's Day present. I got the Blackstone about a month ago.
Nice.
I am in love with this thing. I have probably used it 50 is exaggeration. I probably used it 20, 30 times.
Yeah.
I made smash burgers, vegetables, all the stuff today. Got my big press out. Like, man, I can never go back from this type of grill.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Matt, do you own a flat top griddle or Blackstone or anything like
I
that?
do not. I'm old school with the the propane grill,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I feel a little bit like Hank Hill sometimes, I guess. But no, I have used a flat top. They're pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's always funny to me because it's almost like flat top. I grew up working at restaurants, Greasy
Mhm.
Yeah.
Spoons, golf course, like
Oh yeah.
clubhouses, that kind of thing, and that's what they cook on, for the
Mhm.
most
Yep.
part, especially at the more high volume places. I worked at a few places that were by pan, but
Yeah.
most of the places are those flat tops, and I always liked the open grating of a true classic grill,
Mhm.
but I have come around on the the outdoor flat top idea.
Yeah,
So we'll
yeah.
see. It's as we kind of get to the point where it's just my wife and I, we'll see if that's
Oh
something
yeah.
that is in the cards or not. But
That's where
it's
that's the
Yeah.
point in life we're hitting. And I grew up in a family restaurant. I mean, I cook my way around things, and man, I'm
Mhm.
super comfortable in
Yeah.
that flat top right in front of me,
Oh,
and
I'm sure.
doing teppanyaki style Japanese, and lots of fun stuff. So
I'm a big fan of like doing fried rice on it and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and
Hmm.
fajitas. I cooked on one about a year and a half ago, and I haven't gotten it out of my head since. And my parents, actually, my birthday's coming up next weekend, and my parents said, "Hey, do you want to? We found one on sale. It's a great deal. It's Blackstone. Do you want one?" I was like, "Absolutely."
Yes,
And
please.
so, yes, so that was my early birthday gift last week, and so I've been cooking
Nice.
on it like every other
Great
day
gift.
since. So,
Great gift.
yeah. So let's talk about places that we've been. So, what's the furthest city that you've been from, visited from your hometown? So, let's say if this is your hometown, I claim Columbus as my hometown. What's the furthest city you've been to, and how many miles are you looking at?
Oh, wow. So I was looking at this,
Hmm.
after I saw the question, and so I'm from Detroit, like we were talking about earlier, and born and raised, been here my whole life. And the only time I've been overseas
Hmm.
is when I was my parents grew up, we were working class, to say the least. My dad, I made more than my parents combined in my first day of work, right? But they, we had a
Yeah,
great life and I have no complaints. But it was,
yeah,
we did not take fancy trips. Our trips were getting in the car and driving to wherever my aunt was, my mom's
yeah.
sister, and that's she was a Navy brat, married a Navy brat. They'd move around all the time. So sometimes we went to Rhode Island, sometimes we went to Georgia, sometimes we went to Florida, just depending wherever they were, we would drive. My
Yeah,
dad would get up in the middle of the night, pack us all in the car, drive overnight, and we would stay in their house. That was our vacation. It was great. I
yeah.
have awesome memories. When we were 16, my aunt, whatever, they moved to a base in Italy. So, we didn't go on vacation for a couple of years, and that was like a big deal. We were
Yeah.
going to fly to Italy to see my aunt. And, because it was my parents had never flown anywhere like that either. So first time on a plane, it was like a year before that because I did a little trip with my grandparents, and we flew to actually into Munich and then drove down basically, and hit all of like hit Austria, did the castle stuff, and then kind of drove down into Italy and did Rome and Pompeii and all that kind of stuff. So I was trying to figure out what was farther east, whether it
Yeah.
was Austria, the parts of Austria we went to with the castles, or if it was where we ended up in Sicily, which I
Ooh,
believe
nice.
was Palermo. I can't remember if it was
Okay.
Palermo or Catania, because my aunt and uncle, the base, whichever base it was on the water, and they lived right on the water, which was beautiful.
Hmm.
And we stayed with them, and we got to do, all this kind of neat stuff, as far as around the island and things like that. With my uncle, because he's 50% Italian, 50% Lebanese, and so he kind of leaned into his roots, and we got to go into some cool places that you didn't really get to go to as tourists, and it's a really strong, incredible memory for me. But
Nice.
that is far and away the furthest I've ever been from home.
How many miles do you? Oh,
Yeah,
I
so I was looking
googled
that up
my.
right now. If I do that, and I go from home, it is, and I'm assuming this is as the bird flies, as they
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Then obviously, since you can't drive, it would
No, that'd
be.
be tough.
Oh, question. I had it in Google and then I got distracted and went somewhere else.
You're probably buying some board games, researching something.
Boy, does it tell you miles when you're flying?
I just looked up. I said
Yeah,
miles
it just said
from this
miles
place
from
to
blank
this
to
place.
blank.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are so much smarter than me then. I was in Google Maps trying
Oh,
to have
you're
it tell
trying to
me.
go from Google. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I just Google searched it.
Yeah.
Ryan, what was yours
Yeah.
while he's looking
So
for it?
mine was Columbus to Amsterdam. Amsterdam was where we visited in December. Beautiful city. Love the museum in Amsterdam. It's the Rijksmuseum. It's just such an incredible place, such a unique culture. And so that is 4,473 miles away. So that's the
Nice.
furthest I've traveled.
Mine was 4,600 miles, by the way.
4,600. Nice.
600. Okay, very nice. I also looked mine up, and Ryan, yours and I's were pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah.
So I've been blessed to be able to take a number of trips to Hawaii, one of my favorite places to go in the world, and so I had to look and see what the furthest West Island was, because that would be the furthest one I've gone to. And Kauai and Molokai are about the same distance, and so for Kauai it was 4,510 miles.
Nice.
From little Toledo here, so definitely a difference. It was funny because I thought, oh, Ryan's is Amsterdam. I bet that's further, because you just think U.S.
Yeah,
but you forget how stupid far we are from not only the West Coast, but then add in Hawaii on top of that. So it's a distance.
That's such a crazy thing. I'm thinking I'm going all the way up there and to the corner here, but yours is further. Wow. So
my parents just returned from a trip to Israel, Egypt, and they're recounting all the miles, and I was like, oh my gosh,
that's crazy. Yeah,
there's a lot of traveling.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I was talking about this at work because we had a chance. There's a bunch of people going to Poland, and I don't know where I stand these days on international travel. I'm starting to get less interested, not more, which I felt like it should be going the other way. Like as I get older, my wife and I have some plans, but I'm like, boy, I'm not sure I want to.
Yeah, there's definitely countries I feel more inclined to keep on the list. Ones I feel less inclined, and
I just mean even just the idea of traveling, right? Just the idea of the plane and the hotels and all that stuff. Just doesn't always sound great.
Traveling is uncomfortable. I'm a bigger guy. I'm taller. It's just not. I've never been comfortable traveling.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so I think the last time I was comfortable traveling, I was in middle school. I mean, getting on a plane in middle school was probably the last time that I felt like, I fit in the seat nicely.
Right.
This
is for me.
So,
this is built for me. It's been a
exactly.
while about that.
Yeah. So on the topic of travel, we've been to some pretty amazing places. What is one of the most scenic and beautiful places you've ever been to? So we'll start with you, Matt.
I'm going to go back to what I was talking about with Sicily. It was that's my international one. I'm going to give one shout out to a local one as well. And I think there's an aspect of those of us that are from Michigan, maybe have had opportunities to go to the northern half of Michigan and into the UP, and there are absolutely gorgeous spots all over the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So not a place that I think people from outside the area travel to very often, because you can't fly to the UP, right? You can fly to Detroit and drive 8 hours, or you can kind of get there. You fly to Marquette or whatever, but Marquette is a city in the Upper Peninsula, and it's it's got a university, it's got a beautiful downtown, and there are some of the most scenic, gorgeous, like picturesque Lake Superior, rocks and outcroppings, and just beautiful. Like I've been on, like the California, like that coast, the coastal highway, and seeing the beaches and seeing that. I actually think, for what it's worth, Superior is the closest thing I've ever seen to be equivalent to that. It's not quite as high up, but I mean, it's the fact that you've got just these, gorgeous kind of rocks and trees and the water.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful up there.
Erin loved it. She drove along the coast in California. She absolutely loved it. She still talks about it to this day. It's been 10 years plus.
It was beautiful. Nice. I hated LA. I'll be honest. I did not know. I wasn't there. I was there for work, not vacation. But I didn't like the people, the concrete, the noise, the smell, all of it. Like it was too much. It wasn't something I liked. But man, the coast it's definitely pretty.
Yeah. Rick says, I thought the show would go away with the writer's strike. Oh, well. Nope. We're here. We're still here. So,
is Rick still on the team, or have you?
Yeah. No, Rick's still on the team. In fact, he invited us. He was the one who invited us to the cabin. And so that grants him one more year writing with our website. So
I don't think I'd go to a cabin with Rick. I think that's a
It was actually good. We cooked food, and he taunted my children just like I expected him to. My kids made the statement that basically Rick and Ryan are the same person. Why are you so much like my dad? Was said multiple
Wow.
times. It was very good. So
You should be hurt by that comment.
that's actually true. I was deeply wounded. I would say most beautiful Alaska's coast and some of the glaciers that I saw in Alaska. That stuff's amazing. Like just how big everything is. There are moments when you're in Alaska where you look up and you see mountains and you see all the stuff and you just look and you're like, I am the tiniest little bug of a thing in this world, and it's incredible to look around you and see such beautiful mountain ranges and waterfalls, and the glaciers are wild. Like seeing a piece of a glacier fall off and hearing the crack like it's a crack of thunder, and it just reverberates off of everything, and you're just like, how is this happening? And it happens every day, all the time. It's just wild. It's beautiful. So
it's awesome. For me, I think I am going to. So you put scenic and beautiful, which kind of.
yeah,
So I
scenic,
thought.
beautiful.
So nature's a super easy thing to go with, right?
Mhm.
And like I said, Hawaii is absolutely gorgeous. I've seen every little crack and crevice, the waterfalls, the beaches, we've done the volcano tour. I've walked right
Nice.
up to a road where the road stops because the volcano destroyed the road, and it's
Ooh.
just lava right up to the road.
Wild.
But and even the snow peaks, like there's snow on on the highest Mount Hilo and the Big Island. And so they've done the highs and lows. So when I think nature, scenic, beautiful, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But it's funny when you said scenic, the first thing I thought of was last spring break. My family and I, for the first time I've ever been there, and for any of us, went to New York City. And being in New York City, in Times Square, amongst all that stuff, just felt very like, wow. Like I've been to Chicago, I've been to Philly, like I've been to these bigger cities, but I don't know. There's just something like movie-esque, something that just made being downtown NYC when it was bustling, right? And you're like, wow, this is crazy. So kind of a little bit past the nature part and something else that was just an amazing city.
I'll say that Times Square was interesting. We went prior to COVID hitting, and so it was. I was up there for our cousin's wedding. I was performing the wedding, and it was it was really cool. But it was also like I think that I'd seen it in movies too much, and that kind of ruined it. Like I was seeing it more unfiltered, and I was like, kind of disappointed a little bit. It was still crazy. But yeah, I think that the filter of movies and pop culture and stuff kind of changes it when that's what you've seen for the most part. So
big cities can do that. Vegas, right?
Yeah. Never been to Vegas, but I'm sure I'd look at it and be like, this is not as big as I thought.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that. I've only ever been to like Chicago and Seattle as far as like really big cities. And I will say, because I've been in New York, but I've been to the outskirts. I've been to Long Island. I've been to, but I've never actually been in. We'll say I went to Brooklyn, but not really in the Bronx, but not really downtown, right? Like Times Square and that kind of thing. And what was wild for me is growing up in Detroit area. Detroit's a big city, but not that way. It's more sprawling. There's less massive people. Seattle had exactly like you said, right, where you're literally, like you wait to cross the street with like a group of people, like in the movies, or like you'd be walking down, in Seattle's like that, which is kind of crazy. So that was kind of neat. To your point, that is kind of a neat experience the first time you see it, which was for me not that long ago.
That's awesome. Yeah. Bob says Philadelphia, seeing them dump buckets of cheese on my cheesesteaks. It's gorgeous. So that's true. That's the scenic look that we're looking for. So
that's pretty delicious. Been there.
So the next question, so what game has made you want to visit a place that it's based on? So think about a game that you've played, something that you've been like, man, I could see visiting this place, even if it's just to play the game in that location. Has there been a game that's hit your table like that?
Wow, I thought about this one a lot, and I admit, I tend to look past the theme of most games that I play, so it's hard for me to make that connection a lot of times. I think there's been games I've played, like especially some of the ones that are set in Germany, where it's like, okay, all these German cities, there's so many of them.
Mhm.
I'd love to go to Germany again, as an adult and have that kind of new experience. So I was trying to think if there's one of those, Hamburg or
Mhm.
one of those types of games, or what's the beer and pretzels game from Feld? Strasbourg. That's one of my
Okay. Yeah.
yep. That's one I've always thought about. So I think I'd like to do that. I'll pick a
Okay.
German city. That'd probably be my number one currently.
Nice.
It's fair.
Parks. I think the game of Parks. Just seeing the illustrations of the different parks and the way that different artists interpreted it, and just looking at like when a park was established and stuff. I don't know. It made us playing Parks every time we play it. We're like, when's the next time we can take a trip with the kids to the park, to a national park? What's one that we haven't been to before? So every time Parks hits the table, it's one of those that it kind of gets us into that travel mode of going out and hanging out in nature. So
I like Bob's idea.
Carcassonne, I want to see all the farmers laid down in real life. That's right. They just lay in the fields.
Laying out there in the field.
They lay like this with their arms.
Yeah.
Like this.
A priest just laying out in the middle of the.
Yeah.
So for me, and you changed yours, Ryan. You had Monopoly Seattle edition on your notes.
Monopoly Seattle edition. I want to see Park Place. I want to see the boardwalk. So yeah, that was my original answer. And then I read up, and Monopoly's not real.
I went with Portugal, thanks to Chad and 21st Century with Agueda, the city of umbrellas. I'd love to see that like actual umbrella setup. I had no idea about it until Chad's like, "Yeah, check this out. Look these things up." When he was first doing the box cover art, and he was kind of like, "Hey, what do you guys think of some of this stuff?" I'm like, "Is this a real thing or is this just a game thing?"
Chad, are you making crap up again?
Well, I mean, but how many things are you? When we started thinking about what our topic is, I'm like, "Is that a real place?
Yeah.
Or is that like, is that just a game place?" The first one for me was Titletown. I had to look up, is Titletown a real city?
Gotcha.
It's not.
No.
So, but I thought, well, maybe it is.
I couldn't have told you either way. That's a great point. I would have no idea.
Well, the whole game, it features real cities, right? And so I'm like, is this a real thing? And when I searched Titletown location, at like the first 3 pages were all board games, reviews and content. I'm like, okay, it can't be real then. So, but yeah, Gueda, Portugal, Umbrella Project, that would be my choice for sure.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome to see that art installation. So what location deserves to have a game made about it? And so I'm sure this will just be fodder for Matt to create more games.
Perfect.
Which I'm down for.
For me, it was funny because we did one of the ones we always thought, which was Detroit with Motor City, but it was less about the city itself and more about what you do at the city, right? Which as Ben and I growing up here is make cars. But for me, it's actually something I referenced earlier, which would be Marquette. I think it's just an underrated and unknown kind of gem of really the whole United States. I've been quite a few places, mostly east and then all the way west. I'm missing a lot in the middle. I admit that, but I've been pretty much around the South and Ohio and between Ohio and Georgia and things like that. And then the east, not as much up into Maine, but been Vermont, things like that, and all over Canada. I just think there's very few places that match this beauty. So I think it's worthy of a game. Now, it's probably a little too niche. I think a lot of folks don't know what Marquette is, but still, I think it's a place that I think would be awesome.
That's cool
to learn more about and make a game about.
Yeah. I was thinking about the Iditarod in Alaska. I was thinking about the fact that if you had an Iditarod type of game, I think it would be interesting, kind of managing resources, managing speed, just trying like taking care of the dog's health and stuff, the dog's health and needs and stuff like that. I think it would be an interesting game, but it would also be interesting to see what that would look like using the landscape of Alaska.
I love it.
And so some of the, I actually found that there is a game from '86, I think. There's an Iditarod game from 1986, and I think it's all card based. And so that's the only one that I found that would kind of I was like, has there any bit? I was wondering if there had been anything in the past couple of years that flew under the radar, but apparently not. So
Snowtails, Iditarod.
No Tails. That's what I was thinking of.
Snowtails.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's awesome. It's one of so
Let me
it's
look that
based.
up. Okay.
Yeah, so
I knew there
it's
was one.
a
I couldn't
racing
remember.
game, and I don't know if it's the Iditarod or not. It's just generically the
I
Arctic
have
Circle.
never seen this.
Yeah, it's got the.
Oh wow,
Who's
2008.
that? Is it Yellow? Who made that?
I
remember
Fragger
it.
Games. Fragger Games is
Fragger
the
Games.
original,
Yep.
and then it got
Is it?
picked up by somebody else.
Okay. I've
It had
never even seen this.
It had like the
Oh.
dogs coming at you on the cover, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yep, yeah. Asmodee and Renegade both did it. Apparently,
Oh,
I
there we
love
go.
it. It's a fantastic racing game.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I've never even seen this, and even when I was looking, I didn't find this one.
There's
Okay.
a couple
Cool.
of games that have a similar thing where you're like managing the turns, and I can't remember which other game it is. Might even be another Fragger game, I guess. But there's another game that has a similar feel
Uh-oh.
where you're managing the turns, like as you kind of,
Hmm.
you can crash into the side, things like that. It's really good.
Oh my gosh, he's making these comments, Ryan.
So who is making this comment?
Let me see if it's in our chat.
Snowtails may be making
that's
a comeback. Just saying.
that's Matt over in our
Matt.
yeah.
Matt's making that comment. Interesting. Interesting.
Matt knows about Snowtails.
So okay.
He did talk about
Bob
art
says
for a game
Chad.
recently.
Bob says Chad has one coming down the line that takes place on the Salt Flats. Super excited for that. Interesting.
Thanks for joining us, Matt. Bob.
Absolutely.
Location.
So what about you? Location.
I'm realizing now that all my stuff went Hawaii themed.
Everything's Hawaii.
So I was thinking about like some type of almost like a Puerto Rico, but something that's like production, right? And I thought, well, you've got some games that take place around different types of production, but like a pineapple plantation production,
Okay.
as that's a huge thing for natives all the way up to Dole being present there. But a fishing game, something that would like. I was trying to think of games that take place in Hawaii specifically, and I couldn't think of anything that I've personally played. I'm sure there's something out there. A Hawaii-opoly, I've played that one, so I guess
there we go. That's all you need. Do you need anything else?
But something that takes place on the islands, even if it's like you look at like a King Kamehameha and how he just kind of just trudged through that whole area and the history of the islands coming under one sovereign king. Like there's some cool history that's American adjacent, right?
Okay.
That would be really cool to kind of see how it played out.
That's cool, and finding out more about the history of Hawaii for a lot of people, that would be a huge thing. So,
yeah, for the native end of it, for sure.
All right, so Matt, we have you on the show with ulterior motives today because French Quarter. Well, first of all, this is a milestone episode. Matt, you're on our 50th episode of the Game Chat. So
all right,
party time.
Completely forgot to say that at the top of the
happy
show.
to be here. Glad I could celebrate.
Yeah, this is the 50th episode. This started purely as a way during kind of the lull of the pandemic. Myself and Isaac got together and said, "Hey, we have audiences that have similar. We have a similar desire to see our families play games together and have fun and teach people new stuff. Why don't we join forces for a little talk show thing every other Monday?" And so that's how this came about. 50 episodes in, I still love doing this.
I love it. It's one of my highlights.
So we're going to talk about French Quarter. This one comes to Kickstarter tomorrow from Motor City Gameworks and also distributed by 25th Century Games. Of course, we're sellouts, 25th Century hat, because I didn't fix my hair today. But yeah, so tell us about French Quarter. Tell us a little about what inspired this design.
For sure, appreciate that. So, we had this series of games, right? So going all the way back to Fleet the Dice game, which was our, Ben and I's first, kind of, we'll say, roll and write design. And it wasn't really that we set out to design a roll and write, it's that we set out to design a dice game for Fleet. That was kind of what, and Ben had this idea with, he'd played like literally Rolling America, which think about the gap between Rolling America and Fleet the Dice game.
That's
pretty significant. I do too. It's great, but he's like, we should make a roll and write. And of course, Ben and I turned Rolling America, which had nothing to do with Fleet the Dice game, but that was our minor inspiration. And then we came up with this roll and write. It was Fleet the Dice game, and it's done incredibly well, right? Like, I mean, it was probably a game that it superseded Fleet even, I think, from a sense of
Yeah.
popularity and sales, etc. So, and Fleet was our first game we ever designed 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago. And so, we after that was successful, it had been out for a while. We decided, hey, let's, we've been talking on the side about doing our own thing. Not we don't want to be Asmodee, we don't want to be Eagle Griffin Games, but we wanted
Yeah.
just to be a design studio, do a game a year maybe, and kind of see what happens. So, we had this idea to build off of Fleet the Dice game. We called that our first loaded roll and write, and then Three Sisters was the follow up to that, and then Motor City was game number 3, and then now French Quarter is game number 4. So, the series of games is continuing sort of the design philosophy of these kind of combo driven roll and write games that are 2 sheets, a little heavier than your average roll and write, and it's kind of just a series of games that builds off of itself while each game being unique, but allowing for it to all feel like you can tell that they came from the same lineage, the same line. Right now,
Yeah,
Adam Hill
absolutely.
is a third designer that designs with us. He came on kind of at the end of Three Sisters, helped us with the expansion, and then Motor City, and now with French Quarter.
Yeah.
So the three of us now, Motor City Gameworks, that's our company, and we're designing these loaded roll and write games. So French Quarter came from, like a lot of our ideas have, it was just Ben was there for a wedding with his wife, and it was his buddy's wedding, and he went down there, had never been there before, and was just blown away by just the entire atmosphere, as far as kind of just the noise and the partying and the drinking and all the things that are happening down there, and just the the kind of the nonstop energy. And then he also participated in this second line parade, which is really the impetus, I think, behind his desire to design a game about French Quarter. Was the idea that you're in this parade that's marching through the streets, and strangers are joining in and watching and clapping and cheering, and there's jazz bands, and the leader's got the big staff and all the the umbrellas and the crazy hats and the pretty outfits and everything like that. So that was really the motivation, was sort of and he had one of those like tourist maps that you look at, like where it's got like all the stuff highlighted on it. He's like, there's a game there. And that was the impetus behind French Quarter becoming the next design intent, or the next theme, I should say, for our series of games. So we set about designing it. We wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to put a game in the line that wasn't growing from Motor City, because I think Motor City is probably our peak for complexity. I think that was a game that we really like, but certainly we don't want to go more complicated than that. Then that, because that's, I think, putting a lot of people that may not be interested in that. And we wanted to bring it back down to more of a Fleet Dice level from a complexity perspective. So, but still have the combos and still have interesting decisions. And that was all really based on the fact that the left-hand sheet, when you're looking at the game, is that map of New Orleans, which you can see on the screen right now. And all of those little buildings are, play on words from actual places in New Orleans. The streets are all accurate. I mean, within reason. The city's not perfect north, south, east, west, obviously, but they're all kind of reasonably sort of oriented the way the streets are. And that was kind of the design intent behind having the ability to do like a little number puzzle. Again, back to Rolling America. Welcome to some of these games that we love that have a spatial element, which is something we hadn't done yet in that series of games. So the idea that we could get a spatial element into a loaded roll and write, have our sheets full of tracks and bonuses and combos and all things that are happening like you're used to, but also have this cool spatial puzzle. That was the kind of design intent there, and it totally worked out. And because of a lot of people that are way more talented than us, including apparently friend of the show Matt Paquette and his team, and our artists Marlise and one of Matt's folks, Snow, who all did great jobs. It just turned out gorgeous. Like we couldn't be happier with the the product from perspective of just the shelf presence. When you open it up, you see the cards and the sheets. It's all very bright and colorful, and these beautiful dice, and it just really ended up really how we wanted it to.
I will say that there were a couple interesting things after having played. So my very first experience was Fleet the Dice game. It had been sold out for a long time, and then Eagle Griffin Games had a copy of it at Origins, I think in 2019, and that was my wife was like, "Hey, do you want this to be your Father's Day present?" Because it was Father's Day week. And I said, this is what I want. This is all I want. And so Fleet the Dice game, I ended up getting it and playing it so much that first summer. And then ended up loving. I love the design behind Three Sisters. As a person who gardens, as a person who is a YouTube taught gardener, I love Three Sisters. Like, it is such a fantastic game. And then Motor City was just such a difficult puzzle to wrap your mind around. It was like, this is the complexity of a board game that I want. Like, I'm not ready for Kanban EV. But I'm ready for Motor City. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at with my gaming, and that made me excited to have Motor City. You know, one of the things that there's two things: the dice system. So each of the dice are, and I'm putting up some of the graphics of just images that I took from it. So these dice are allocated onto cards that dictate the movement around the city. Okay, so we have a riverboat, we have a taxi, we have socialize, which is just kind of hanging out on the block. You've got walking. I love that they're tied to this movement. So there have been times when I've drafted a die solely because I need that movement, and even though I didn't need the stuff on it, I was like, I need to get to the other side of the city, so I got to do this. And I really like that these cards switch. So each of the 8 rounds, the taxi is going to be different. You're going to get different perks each of the 8 rounds. And another thing about the design, you don't have dice mitigation in here, like the traditional way of like storing assets and then taking those assets to change the numbers. Like that makes you submit yourself to this puzzle, and like, when you've made a mistake, you just have to own up to it and figure it out. Like, you can't say, I'm going to compost my way out of this thing, you know?
The die manipulation is less than Three Sisters for sure. You know, to kind of keep the integrity, like you said, of that number puzzle. If it was too easy, then there's no puzzle there. And there are times where you're like 4 turns ago, like, what the heck did Pass Matt do to me? I got like a 2 here and a 6 here. So that building is, you know, not getting mapped unless I use a wild or whatever, which I have access to like 2 of those if I unlocked them on the graph, or if I locked them on the balcony. So, you know, the whole to your point, right? The idea is we wanted to tie together, which is something actually that, you know, again, you know, Motor City is certainly a game that, you know, is doing very well, but it's Three Sisters is so big, it's hard to compare the two. But you know, Motor City is certainly a little smaller of an audience because of its complexity. But one of the things that I love is the amount of things that you do with each die draft. We wanted to capture that in French Quarter at a little bit of a lower level. But to your point, right, you've got to decide, here's the symbols on the card, here's the movement type of the cards, and then here's the die value I'm going to use when I'm done with all that stuff. So making sure that you understand, okay, if I take this die, I'm going to get that symbol, I'm going to get to move that many spaces, that building's going to give me those symbols, and then I'm going to have to write a number in. Making sure all that works out is kind of the fun bit of planning around that spatial puzzle.
Nice.
One of the things that I love about the game is that it captures, our family has been to New Orleans 2 or 3 times. And so New Orleans is such an interesting culture, from the food to the entertainment. One of the things that I looked at going into this was the performers. Let me see if I can get back to the performers. So the performers, you're basically trying to find performers throughout the city and hitting each of the performers twice to get the maximum amount of points of the bonuses and all this stuff. This is a difficult task. Like, I went in saying, oh, well, I'm just going to find a couple performers. And I was like, no, I've got to like make my turns based around where are the performers, where am I going? Can I hit another one on the way? You know? And so there's so many different avenues for points, just like all of your games. But it's each of the puzzles is a really fun puzzle.
Thank you.
So, and the fact that it feels like New Orleans, the fact that it feels like a town that's filled with like music and entertainment and even socializing. Socialize too hard and your walk is going to be cut in half because you've been drinking too much. You know, that's like such a, you only notice it when you're like, oh, hold it. Why is my walking? Oh, because I've been drinking a lot.
Too much socialization.
So too much socialization.
Yeah, the party track was interesting because it took a lot of tuning. I can say as a designer, right? You don't want to lean too hard into a negative feedback loop. But
Mhm.
you also want some restriction and some challenge and some ability to, sort of understand, okay, these decisions have some consequences
Yeah.
and are going to cause me to have things that I may not be able to do everything that I want to do. So it was a lot of fun, for us as designers to work on the party track because it can be worth a lot of points. Because if you're being honest with yourself, right, a lot of folks go to New Orleans to party, and that's the
Mhm.
reason you're there. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it also has consequences, and like you said, right, it can affect how well you move. It can affect,
Yep.
it
Yeah.
can go to the police.
Yeah.
There's some things that can happen. You miss out on some other bonuses potentially, and it's one of those things where we kind of designing that track was a
Mhm.
lot of fun, but definitely a challenge to make sure that we did it right and
Yeah.
got everything tuned to the point where it all made sense.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun to play, and it's a very good design. So this launches tomorrow on Kickstarter.
It
I'm
does.
gonna grab that Kickstarter link so that I can share it in the show right here. But yeah, so we will keep going here.
Chad is that last comment.
Chad is the last comment. Let's see
Is
what
he?
Chad says.
I kind of thought that was him. About
Okay,
the
Yeah,
extra, yeah.
he didn't give
this is
restream
interesting.
permissions, so
Okay, so
he
Chad
doesn't know his
says,
way
"Does
around a
Matt
computer.
want to break the news on our next game together?"
If he gives me permission, I would love to. And it sounds like he did.
So
So
this is exciting because we don't get a lot of breaking news on the
yeah,
game chat, but
yeah.
yeah.
So we are working on a redux, I guess we'll call it, of Ladder 29, a game that Ben and I did,
Ooh.
Yes.
years and years ago, and it's a great game.
Oh,
And
Ryan
I
fell out of his seat.
yep, I know, yep. And so it has been an aspect of that game was super well received. Green Couch Games did an
Green couch.
excellent job on
Yep.
it. But as it's kind of moved on in its life, there's an opportunity there to kind of reach a new audience. So we
Wow.
went to Chad and kind of said, hey, we have this idea. We'd like to take another
Man.
look at Ladder 29. Very much the same game. But a couple of tweaks here and there. Maybe make a few updates to it. Maybe
Mhm.
see if we can find an audience that didn't have a chance at it before. So and Chad,
Ladder 29 is legit one of the best ladder climbing games, trick taking games. This is just like this is classic. Like I taught my mother-in-law how to play. I've taught my mom how to play, my dad how to play. Everybody, whenever family events happen, this is always in our bag because it's easy to teach, but it's so difficult to master and it's so much fun to play. Oh man.
it's thank you. It it might be my favorite of our games to just play, like you said, because
Mhm.
it does. Listen, it has its roots in these games that we played in college, and actually
Mhm.
one of the games that it has its main roots in is it's actually a Vietnamese card game that we learned from uh professor of ours that was in the Vietnam
Nice.
War, and he learned it and kind of
Okay.
brought it back. And it's certainly got, you can feel Tishu and some other things in there that that those shedding games that people love. And we played it so much in college and shortly after college, still play it sometimes, that we wanted to kind of take a look at it and say, what would this game look like in the hobby industry, right? Not
Yeah.
not just a 52 card game, but actually with kind of a hobby spin. So yeah, we were really excited to take a look at what we can do with Chad and kind of decide, is this something that we're gonna having, obviously, we've all played it, so
Yeah.
maybe we just took a couple of the edges off some of the things that folks had trouble with, and
Yeah.
not make it easier, but make it a little more accessible potentially for a broader audience.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
that's
am
awesome.
all in Ladder 29, one of my favorite. I remember when Ladder 29 it was at Origins, and in the little booklet, I believe that they used a quote from our preview because we were a pretty new site at the time. One Board Family was a pretty new site within a year and a half, 2 years,
Mhm.
and when I saw like a little blurb about it in the little booklet that came at Origins, I was like, yeah, that's cool. And we have been playing Ladder 29 since. So
Thank you, that's awesome.
Yeah, you've definitely talked about it a few times on here.
a
It's been
lot.
on my short list because on Amazon it's it's not in print, right? It's not.
I believe it is fundamentally out of print now,
Yeah.
so prices
Yeah.
there actually have gone up on it a little bit, which is always strange.
Yeah, I've searched on
When games do
eBay
that.
and
I think there's still a few copies floating around, and I think
Yeah.
Jason Kotarski still has some direct to sale on his Green Couch
He
website.
he actually was running a sale on Green Couch
Yep.
Games last week, I think. So
I'll wait
yeah.
till this logo's on it. So
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that is super exciting. That is
Yeah,
super exciting.
It is
Awesome.
for us too.
Yeah.
awesome.
See the game chat where you break news. That's what I'm talking about.
50th every 50 episodes.
Every
breaking
50
news.
episodes, we're gonna have breaking news. So you guys get with it. Come on here, break some news. So
How about we move to pick 5?
yeah, pick 5. So this is a thing that we do on the show. This is Game Chat presents Pick 5. We're picking 5 games that are named after real locations. These are not the best 5 games we've ever played. These are not our top 5 games. These are 5 games we suggest, and they're in no particular order. So,
Yep.
Matt, you want to go first?
One at a time.
I do. So the first one I thought of, I did kind of tease earlier, but I'm going to go with Strasbourg.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
like I said, it's a German
Solid pick.
city. It's a Feld. It has a absolutely brilliant card mechanic. So I totally check it out. It's a great game.
Nice. My copy of Cape May is hidden behind something over there, and I couldn't
Shame on
find
you.
it in the last 30 seconds. So I'm going with Pandemic Iberia. I believe this is the best non-legacy pandemic out there. It takes place on the Iberian Peninsula. It is really cool because of the restrictions of not having air support and just having to build trains and to plan ahead. And they're real diseases you're combating. So it's a really great implementation of Pandemic, and it's actually the one that I would prefer to play 100% of the time.
Justin Gibbons, thanks for joining us. That was Matt said this Justin, and then Justin Gibbons jumped into the chat. So
nice.
we appreciate that, Justin.
Yeah.
I think this is the newest one on my list. Is going to be WizKids Rebuilding Seattle.
I want to play that so bad.
I'm a sucker for polyomino games. I love
Yeah.
anything with polyominoes, and this one is tricky. It's tight. It's punishing in resources, and I absolutely love it. Aesthetically, it's a beautiful game. It's I'm telling you, I'm first, to say it. I've said it this year so far. The last 5 or 6 games from WizKids have been like solid games.
Are you bringing that to Origins?
I'll bring it.
Okay, I need to play it. Yeah. All right, Matt.
I think this is. That's cheating. I'm going to do it. It is cheating because I was trying to figure out if it was a real place, but even though because it's based on a real country, and that's Grand Austria Hotel.
Okay.
So it's not a city. It's cheating.
Yep. No, it's a place.
It's a location. Yeah, it's a real
It is
place.
Yeah, it's might be my favorite Euro. Might be.
Okay.
It's
Awesome.
really high up there. Not my favorite game, but one of my favorite Euros. I just love it.
Very cool. That's awesome. My next one's going to be Mississippi Queen. This is an old game that actually got reprinted in probably 2019, something like that. This is a really interesting game. The Mississippi River is being built as your it's a racing game where your river boats are going up the road, and basically you're losing die depending on how you slow down and how you speed up, and along the way you're picking up from people from the different islands in the middle of the Mississippi. You have to have a certain number of people on your boat before you can reach the end. It's a really neat racing game that I don't think gets enough. It's interesting because it was republished, but you can feel that it's an older game. It doesn't have the polish of some of the newer racing games, and it feels that way, but it's really pretty and it's really fun to play, even though it's lacking that polish. So
it's fair. So good. Still a good time.
Yeah.
This is a location. Also one of my top 3 games. It's Mars, on Mars. I'm going to sneak this in every list I possibly can. This is the expansion. Just recently got it. Hoping to get it played. Some modules. One of my favorite games of all time. Mars, on Mars.
Nice.
Number 3.
Okay, so my next one is probably the newest game that I've played. In the sense of like I don't keep up super well with the hotness. I wish I could. I just don't play games quite enough to do that. But this is a game, and the reason I like it so much is because it is something that I don't normally love, but I really liked, and that was Earth. So
okay,
yeah, it's a place. It's a location.
Earth is a place,
and this is it's an engine builder.
Yeah,
but really it's a what I call combo mining. I'm sure other folks call it that as well. I usually hate that, frankly. Like Terraforming Mars, I don't love. It takes way too long for me. Even Ark Nova, which is a super
I like
cool
Arc
game.
Nova.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic, but you're digging for cards, right? You're trying to
Yes.
find the cards that help you do the things you're doing, and Earth is all that. So you're mining for the cards that create the combos for you.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
not a feeling I generally love in games, but I really thought Earth was a really clever game.
I
So and it
played.
was quick too.
Yeah. I played Earth last week, and I want to play it 2 or 3 more times
Yeah.
before I say what I think, just because I feel like it is better than all the other games that you mentioned. I don't know. I think I don't know if it's better than Arc Nova. I don't know.
I think it's
really wanna
shorter.
try it.
It's
I think
shorter.
the
It's shorter.
like, yeah, the
But
fun.
yeah.
I always call it fun per minute. So in a game like Earth,
Yeah.
your fun per minute's pretty high because you can play. We played a 4-player game with Teach in 80 minutes. Where Arc
That's a
Nova.
much faster game than Arc.
Oh, Arc
Yeah.
Nova took us 2.5 hours, and I
Yeah.
loved it.
But
I'm like,
I
2.5 hours.
think
That's a long
I
game.
think that may be why it stood out so much, because it was so much shorter.
Yep,
It felt
think so.
very frustrating not to get the cards that I wanted. Whereas in
Mhm.
Arc Nova, I felt like I was doing more stuff.
For
Maybe,
sure.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, interesting. But I'm going to play Earth again. Bob has a copy. He just recently got it. My third game is Copenhagen. It's interesting. Copenhagen, I purchased this because one of our local in-state game stores was liquidating some stuff that he just had too much of. Copenhagen, the deluxe edition with the acrylic tiles, was one of those games. And I was like, you know what? I know the family's going to love this. I've played it 2 or 3 times. Sure enough, I brought it home and my wife fell in love with Copenhagen. This is a fantastic game. It has that appeal of something as simple as Ticket to Ride, where you're trying to do things and picking up 2 cards or doing this or doing that, building, getting combos. It's really fun. Copenhagen's a really, really good game, and the acrylic tiles just make it even better. So.
Fun fact, that was the game you were playing when I met you.
Oh, that's right.
You, Bob, and Rick
Yep.
were playing that. I came over to the Queen area, and you guys
we
were
were
playing that. Yeah.
He was teaching us, because at the time I think it was published that Origins. Yep.
Yeah. Marrakesh.
Yep. That was going to go on my list.
Rogueling Gigamic. Man, I cannot get enough of this game. I love this thing.
It's so good.
It's so fun. The rugs are fun. It's such a fun little area control. Take that. It's the right amount of take that and the right amount of time for me. Like you can have something really ticked off at you, but the game's over in 30 minutes. So
yeah,
it's a fun amount of ticked off.
It's nice. It's nice. So
number 4.
Okay, I'm going to save my favorite of this list for last. So I'm going to go with it's here somewhere. I was going to grab it over here. I can't see it, but New York. And so New York is actually the re-theme of Alhambra. It's so it was Alhambra, but you were doing skyscrapers and things like that instead. And Alhambra's not a game that I would have thought I love as much as I do. And I really, again, New York though, being the New York re-theme, but I really like it. It's one of my favorite, kind of easy to teach, relatively light kind of entry-weight Euros. And it can be pretty restrictive at times, and it can get a little long even at, the higher player counts. But I really have always, especially at 3 and 4 players, I've really always loved it.
Nice.
So it's one of my, I'm not sure it's a thematic representation of New York, but, again, hey, we're not saying that. It's a good game.
That's cool. My next one's going to be Dinner in Paris, area control game. Really cool components. What you're doing is you are building terraces out in front of these Paris eatery locations. My wife and I played this at Tantrum Con last year. Ended up getting a copy still in shrink at this year's Tantrum Con at a flea market. Somebody had a copy unopened, and I snatched it up because me and my wife loved the design of that one, and it's just such a chill, like tile placement, like really cool game. So
my 4th one is over there on a shelf, and I wasn't lifting it. Foundations of Rome.
I was about to say Foundations of Rome. If it comes down to I'm not lifting it or I might break something, it's Foundations of Rome.
I love it. I can't get enough of it. Our locals can't get enough of it. They ask me all the time to bring it to our game nights. It's such an aesthetically pleasing game. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's right. It's easy. It's a 3-minute teach with, I can't love it enough. Foundations of Rome is such a solid game.
Cool. That's also
And finally, number
Last
5.
one.
Number
I tried to
5.
find it. It's here somewhere. Can't find it. And that is Isle of Skye,
Oh yeah,
Isle of
which
Skye.
is
Okay.
one of my favorites as
So
far as
good.
it is great. And
Nice.
it's one of those games that you can play, with 5, and it's just as good as it is with 4, and just as
Okay.
good as with 3. I'm not sure it's a 2-player game. I haven't tried it with 2.
I haven't tried it with 2.
Yeah, I can't imagine I want to, but
Yeah. Yeah.
even 3, it's not the best. 4 and 5 are
Mhm.
absolutely where it shines. So I'm going to give myself a quick honorable mention with Lancaster, another absolutely brilliant Euro with 5 players.
Very
So,
cool. My last one's going to be Istanbul. So this is
nice.
My sister-in-law bought this for us Christmas a couple years ago, and it is a fantastic design. It's a classic. It's one of those games that will never leave our collection. It doesn't hit the table very often, but when we play it, I really, really enjoy it. So,
which Isle of Skye expansion do you like the most?
I have only ever played base game.
Oh, just the base game, because
Yeah,
there's some definite
I've heard.
there's some controversy on on a couple of those that are.
Yeah, I tend to not buy expansions for the simple
Okay.
reason that I only get to play games a few times a month, and I just don't need expansion content because I don't get to play the games I have enough.
yeah, there you go.
So not that I love expansions. If I knew I
Yeah.
was going to get to play it more, with a few exceptions, like Village is a game where I hated the expansions, loved the game, but
Mhm.
it's whatever.
One of my,
Otherwise, I tend to be whatever.
One of our locals, he owns Isle of Skye, loves it, so he has
Mhm.
all the stuff. I don't own it, but I've played his copy
Oh yeah,
a number of times and really enjoy it. But Ryan, have you played
I
Isle of
have.
Skye?
I played it a long time. I played it
I mean, it's
quite a
been
few
out
years
for
ago.
it's not a new game.
Yeah,
No.
I played it, but I've only played it once with some friends that brought it over.
yeah.
Number 5 and possibly my favorite game of all time, definitely in the top 3. There's a top 3 that swirls around. That would be Orleans.
Orleans. Yeah.
Hard not to love. Different kind of Orleans than French Quarter, but nonetheless still one of my favorite games. My Grail game that took me forever to find my Orleans Deluxe with all the good wooden bits.
Nice.
And man, rest in peace, TMG. So
There we go.
last question.
Last question. What have you been playing, Matt? What have you been playing?
So we've been doing a little bit of kind of BGA experimentation,
Okay.
more so than we've done a little bit in person. I got to play a few things, but I would say, we're trying some Arc Nova on there. I played Sea Salt and Paper on there, which is a really
Okay.
clever card game that you've got to kind of be prepared to understand that it's kind of luck driven. It's a card game.
Mhm,
There's some even a little bit of meanness to it, and then mostly. Like I said, we did get to play Earth, which I really, really did enjoy.
mhm.
And that's about it, really. It's kind of just, I play endless async games on BGA all the time.
Yeah.
As far as newer stuff, that's kind of the new stuff that we've been trying with a few folks that I play
Yeah.
async with. So,
Yeah, BGA games are really solid. I played the other night. We played Arc Nova just because Bob was wanting to play and I was wanting to play, and we just didn't want to set it up, so we played on BGA. So
yeah, no, it's good on there. I mean, I
It's
played
really
one
good.
game live. It takes a long time even on there.
Yeah.
BGA does not shorten the experience. It was like 70 minutes, 2-player. I don't like to play live games because of that. I knew going in it was going to be a long game, but I played several async games on there of it. It's really a strong game.
Yep. I've been playing. We played this morning. Learned it and played it this morning. Fairies.
Oh.
This is the new game from Forbidden
Glenn.
Games.
Yep.
This is going to be hitting Kickstarter next month, and so it's good. I like it. It's a cool design. I'm not a huge fantasy setting person. But it's interesting in this game. You've got fairies, trolls, woodland creatures. You've got these different almost factions, and it's interesting. It's a tile laying game, but it's also deck building, and so there's a lot of little things going on, and I think it's accessible enough for kids and adults to play, which I feel like the artwork points to that. So
it's perfect. For me, and I said I was going to mention it earlier, the one I'm doing the content on, the one I'm super excited about was the newest Lacerda Inventions. Super excited. The new Lacerda ENO tool started cracking into the rule book. It is hard, and woe is us, right? But as content creators, like I'm like, oh, there's got to be somebody has something. No, there's nothing out on this.
There's
no
nothing out
video.
there right now.
There's
Yeah.
no nothing. Paul hasn't put his gaming rules stuff up yet, so
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm trudging through the book, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna take me 4, 5, 6, 20 times reading this thing.
Yeah.
But aesthetically, I mean, it's O'Toole, right? It's Lacerda. If you love their games, you know what you're getting, right? In the same way, right? For what a Riddle and Pinchback game looks like, right? You know what you're getting, right?
Yeah,
if you're good with a
absolutely.
game that pings, and you love a good, roll and
Like
write,
all
you
the
know,
combos.
yeah,
And,
you know what you're gonna get, right? And so, like,
100%.
I like knowing what I'm getting from a designer as a game player. Like,
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
Like, I'm not going to be surprised. Be like, oh man, he made a party game. Am I going to like a Lacerda party game? I don't know if I'm going to like that, right? Like,
That's
so,
great.
like, you lean into what you like. So,
Yep,
That's hilarious.
absolutely.
So,
That line of games that they do with Eagle Griffin are all intense, every single one of them, and it's wild to me how much they've just leaned into that giant box, big price tag, but gorgeous games.
Oh my gosh, the
giant box and a big heavy experience. I mean, hey,
right.
they have a, like I said, they have a line. Yep, they have an audience.
Yeah.
They know what they're trying to do, and they do it
for sure.
That's right. So last thing we always end with is where can people find you online? So Matt, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, so generally I see the website. That's perfect. Motor City Gameworks will take you hopefully to the Kickstarter page for tomorrow for French Quarter, but also there's also some links for t-shirts and just general contact on there. For me personally, I'm generally on Twitter, MD Riddlin, so MD Riddle with an N on the end, and that's my username. Find me on there, or Riddlin on RIDDLEN on Board Game Geek. Send me a geek mail. If you post in one of our forums, I'll see it. I'll respond if I need to. Otherwise, I'm always happy to chat. So just hit me up.
Yeah, it's awesome. You can find us at One Board Family all over the place. Go over to oneboardfamily.com. That's where you will find the brand new French Quarter preview, which was posted today. So we've got a full preview along with some thoughts about the game and a link to jump into the Kickstarter campaign when it launches tomorrow.
Gaming with Sidekicks, anywhere you can find at Gaming with Sidekicks, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, which, as we talk about, is still my favorite place to make content. We're making some good stuff. I saw you're getting ready to go camping. TikTok, it's a great community. If you haven't explored it in TikTok, I know it can be a time suck, but just get in, follow a bunch of board game stuff, unfollow everything else.
There we go.
There's some really cool people making great content. We've had Mondo on here. He's one of my favorite ones to follow, talking about being a board game designer, kind of the process. I look forward to seeing his thoughts, and there's a lot of good content. But
or Seppi over at Fight in the Box,
super good too. Yeah,
absolutely. So
we need to get him on.
Absolutely. Well, he's got a Kickstarter, so we reason to have him on the show.
Indeed.
So Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been really fun hanging out with you. It's funny that you and I have chatted on Twitter for like 3 years now,
at least.
And we've never met in person, and this is the first time that we've been like in each other's faces in any capacity. So
anytime.
And you guys are actually going to be at Origins this year.
We are. Yep. I think the crew, so Ben, Adam, and I will be at Origins for at least Thursday, Friday, Saturday, parts of Sunday, depending on. I may leave a little bit early, but it will be there, and I think we're going to hang out. We're always just kind of wandering around, but we'll definitely be around the 25th Century booth. At least parts of the day, just not unofficially. I don't know if Chad wants us or not, but we'll be
we'll be there.
We'll be hanging out regardless and harassing his patrons, I'm sure. But otherwise, we'll be there.
Sticking games in people's faces. You want this, don't you?
Look forward to seeing you there.
That's cool. We're going to hang out, play some games. Excellent.
Awesome. Can't wait.
All right. That'll do it. Thanks so much for joining us, and see you later.
Thanks, guys.